I got an email the other day from someone that just finished their first game, developing their first game, and they asked me for advice on making a better game, what they could do for their next game. I said, sure. So I came up with top 10 ideas for making better games, and of course, with a little bit of advice from my grandma. So the first idea I had was often I hear, on the forums, or you talk to someone like, "Oh, I've got the most amazing idea for a game." But just having an amazing idea doesn't really mean it will be a great game. I think it's better to have a crappy idea and do it well than have a good idea but just it's poorly made. You got to have pick an idea that you have a passion for, but something that you can have the perseverance and the patience to see it through, to do it well.
Wow, have you even done this before?
The next idea for making a better game, I think, especially for an indie developer, is to keep it simple. Um, Big games that are complex are difficult to finish and do well. Um, there's always exceptions. I think the one I thought of is Roll Turtle, just an amazing game. It took one guy almost 2 years to make it, which is an incredible feat in itself. So I think for the average newer user, if it's your first or second game, just keep it simple. Find a simple concept, simple game, but just do it well.
That's useless advice. And I don't know what an app is. I don't know what that is.
I'm just finishing up actually a game that I collaborated with another indie developer, and yeah, it was actually a pretty good experience. If there's two people, there's more ideas. There's always a bit of help with problems, and it's actually kind of more fun. You can someone else to get discuss things with, and it's actually I think it's just more fun. Because being an indie developer is a pretty isolating venture if you're doing it on your own. I think a big thing that you can do to make your games better is just hire an illustrator. New developers we see, they try and do their own illustrations, and some of it's okay if it's simple enough, but it's unlikely to that one person is good at everything. And games just really do look a lot better, and it's a lot better experience for the player if it's got great assets. And it doesn't cost that much to hire an illustrator and maybe a musician, and for getting sound assets as well.
Okay, listen here, baby. I need you to stop and just get a real job.
Kind of a pet peeve of mine, if you are going to do your own illustrations and graphics for your game, try and at least stick to a palette. It's pretty easy. I just picked a palette on a Googled color palette and just picked one out, something that might fit your game. Don't just pick colors that are just by random or whatever you think looks good, because when they go together, it's not always pleasing to the eye. But if you stick to a color palette that kind of fits your game, it just looks so much better. Um, I think you can make a better game by not rushing it. Just do lots of testing when it's finished, and I guess during the process as well. People are always seem to be in such a big hurry and rush to publish, and it's like it doesn't take that long to just um, play and test and test and test and test. It might mean just a couple more days or even a week, but you have to get the bugs out of it, or it's just not a good experience for players.
You couldn't code your way out of a wet paper bag. I swear for that's just terrible advice.
And kind of almost same along the same lines as, but paying attention to details. So things like adding special effects, even just the small things. Just elevates your game to the next level. It doesn't have to be over the top everything. Just a few small things, can make a big difference. Um, Details like where you put your controls. Um, some people put their controls right close to the edge of the screen. It's terrible. You can't play it. So you have to look at these details and just look at every little thing and think, is this good, or how can I do this better, or does this make sense? And it will make a better game. Now, this is just kind of something I like. Is I think it's a good experience if you don't sometimes take yourself too seriously. I'm not saying you have to add fart noises to your game or anything silly like that. It's usually more subtle, but just a bit lighthearted aspect to it with the character or sounds or graphics or it don't have to be insulting, but just a lighthearted sense of humor to your character, and players want to be entertained. So I find uh, players like that.
You really just gonna continue? Do you actually think anyone is watching? I don't think anyone is actually still watching this.
This is a big one. Uh, a lot of uh, indie developers are made and published with not one other person even looking at it. They just make it and then they publish it and it's out there. I think you should get opinions of a game before at least it's half done. It's difficult to change a game after it's finished. It's much easier to change direction or fix problems when you're closer to the start. This could be as simple as posting screenshots on the forums or making a video and posting it and asking for opinions. And then I guess the other side of that is accepting criticism, um, because a lot of times opinions are probably right, and what we think about our games is a lot doesn't coincide with what players are actually thinking about your game, because you're so biased, because you're so into it. Especially young people, I find they ask for opinions to their game, and then when they get it, they're upset because they point out all the problems and issues. When really they're not saying it's terrible; they're just doing what you asked. Um, but I think it's to learn to accept criticism and willing to ask for it. You're going to make a better game. You're going to be a better developer, and I think that differentiates amateurs from professionals. You can separate that personal attachment to it, and take advice. Don't have to follow through with everything, but a lot of that advice you hear over and over again. It's probably true. Those are probably things you should do or change in your game. And also, sometimes if we can't find a solution or add something to a game, we just don't bother. But that's a bit of a compromise, and then you just won't get the game that you really wanted. If you don't know, you just have to ask. Most people on the forums, especially on Gamesalad, will try and help you out. If you lay out a clear question with some um, clear ideas of what you're looking for, people will gladly give you help. And by not making those compromises, you will make a better game.
That was painful. I need a nap.
So that was kind of the top 10 ideas that I thought could help people when they're thinking about making their game to make a better game. Thanks for watching.